Happy Wednesday. Thanks for joining me for a craft night with friends. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make cute embroidery kits for beginners. And I'm here every weeknight, Monday through Friday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. All right, tonight we're continuing the F Fox embroidery. I think we'll get the chain stitches done tonight and start those French knots on the letters. So that is the plan. Thanks for popping in. All right, let's get going. Alrighty, I'm gonna zoom you guys in again today. Scoot you all on over. Bear with me a sec here. Okay. So tonight we are working on the fox again, and we got a little ways with the chain stitch. So we got to do finish the chain stitch of the tail, and then we have to fill in his head here with chain stitches, and then we're gonna do the F as French knots. So we'll see how far we get on that tonight. I do have some white thread already going here. So let's get that threaded, and I'm going to trim it just because it's a little fuzzy. Get some stitching done tonight. All right. There we go. Alrighty, let's get cracking. So I left off right here, and I'm just kind of going around and around. Actually, I think I stopped right there, going around with the chain stitch. So let's weave in the ends there to get started. Hope everyone had a lovely day today. Midweek already. F for fox, yep. So we're going through the whole alphabet. I have an animal for every letter of the alphabet here. And we are going to be stitching through all of them here. All right, so I'm coming up in that last stitch just to make it look like I'm continuing right from that stitch. All right, and let's pile on the chain stitches again. Fit 3 in this little spot here. Oh my gosh, you guys, I started watching Julia today. It's about Julia Childs, and it's so freaking lovely and wonderful. So if you're looking for a new show that's like sweet and low mega drama, like how all shows are these days, it's just lovely so far. I think there's only 4 episodes out so far, and I'm almost done with the 3rd one, but it's on HBO or HBO Go or Now or whatever, it's Max, whatever it's called now, and it is so good. Oh, Cat Dog Zoo, that makes me so happy. They said, oh, OMFG. I was watching a tutorial on chain stitching and it made no sense, but watching you, it finally clicked. Yeah, so I can go in more in depth too. I did a little bit of that last night and I just kind of am brushing over. But yeah, we're making a little bit of that loop. All right, when you're done, when you're at a corner or like a tight curve, you can just put like a little anchor stitch at the end, or actually the end of your row. That's going to hold it down. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in a tight little spot here, but the general idea is you come up, and here I'm coming up in the last loop that was there. I'm going this direction, so I'm going to make like an arc around that direction that I'm going. And then I'm going to go straight down in the exact same place that I came out of. and then I'm going to come a stitch length away, but up in the middle of this loop here. So when I pull up, my thread is going to catch that loop, and there is a chain stitch. And then if you get to the end of the row, or you need to switch directions really harshly like I am here, then just put a tiny, tiny little anchor stitch just on the other side. I call it an anchor stitch, but it's just a tiny stitch just on the other side of the loop, and there it is. It's like a tiny little baby stitch that will hold down your loop. And then if you want to stitch another stitch, just come back up in there. And I'm switching directions here. If you don't make that little anchor stitch when you switch directions like that are this angular, this sharp, your loop will kind of want to fall onto the next loop. But this way we kind of lock it in by doing that little anchor stitch. And I think that's going to be it for this little bit there. I think we filled him in pretty well. All right, so I'm going to weave in the end, but next up we're going to do, we're going to fill this in chain stitches as well. Like I'm going to do just like long stripes here. But this, I'm going to do the reverse chain stitch. So if you're having trouble with just like the normal like forward chain stitch, check out the reverse chain stitch that I'm going to do right now once I weave in the end. And that tiny little stitch at the end, that little anchor stitch to hold on the loop, that's going to be important at the start of the reverse chain stitch. So, all right, let's snip this. Okay, I have more thread here, so I'm going to weave in the end. I always weave in the ends to get started versus tying knots. I think it just leaves the back like super duper clean. So it's almost like tying a long knot. So I'm going to do that here because I'm going to start stitching on the back of the head here, I think. So, and I always go 3 times. It's that third time that locks it in. So I went this way once. Now this is the second time and the third time. I just mean by 3 times, I mean like going back and forth through the stitches 3 times. There we go. So that's locked in and we're ready to start again. So, all right, now here is a variation of the chain stitch that we were doing here yesterday. All right, and this is called the reverse chain stitch, and it's exactly what you think it is. We're basically starting with the anchor stitch and doing all our stitches backwards. And it sounds scary, but it's totally wonderful. So that anchor stitch that we finished with, I am going to start with that. So I'm going to just make the tiniest little like forward stitch along the head here. So see how tiny this is. Like an itty bitty baby stitch right there. So that's our anchor stitch. And now for my first stitch, I'm going to come up like a stitch length away. I'm doing about 1/8 of an inch or so. This is going to be our first chain stitch for the reverse chain stitch. And I'm going to just hold it in this direction because it's a little easier. But that little anchor stitch, I am going to slide my needle underneath that. So I'm just underneath the stitch with my needle, and I did not go to the back of the fabric again. I'm still on the surface of the fabric, just underneath that stitch, and I'm going to pull that all the way through. All right, and don't pull too tight. You can leave it a little loose. And then I'm going to go right back into our hole from this first stitch that we're working on there. And if you look, it looks like one of our normal chain stitches, except for we did it backwards. We started with the anchor stitch and then went around. So that is our first stitch. Now, after that, every stitch is treated the same. So starting now, all the stitches will be the same. So I'm going to come up a stitch length away. And now, just like how I did the anchor stitch, I'm going to put the needle under both, under that whole entire stitch that came before. I'm not going to the back of the fabric. I'm just going underneath that stitch, pulling through, and then going back in the same hole here. And there we go. It's connected just like a chain stitch. So this is awesome. Like I love it. It's an easy way to do the chain stitch, and I love it because I don't have to make that like big loop and come up in the middle of the loop. I can just swoop underneath my stitches and go right back in. So I find it just easier because you don't have thread flopping around all over the place and getting tangled or anything. So we will do the fox using this reverse chain stitch. Yes, I think this stitch is a little bit easier. So if you haven't done the chain stitch before and you're nervous about it or whatever, definitely give this reverse one a try. It's not, the normal way that it's shown when you first see a chain stitch. So I like showing both ways, but this is definitely a little bit easier. So now when we're done with the row, we don't have to do an anchor stitch because we already did that at the beginning. All we do is just stop stitching. We just finish our stitch and we're good to go. So when we get, I think I can get like 2 more stitches in here. Okay, says my nails look so good. Still look so good. So this is week 3 and I'm pushing it this week. And I think, so I'm kind of testing it out, right? Because this is my first time with the dip nails. I'm definitely pushing it this week. It's starting to chip, so I've chipped a little bit on my thumb, and today I chipped a little bit on my nail here. But other than that, they don't look, they look probably horrible for like acrylic nails, but they look awesome if you're comparing it to just my normal lacquer nails yet. So I think I might push this, even though it's starting to get chipped and everything. And they're growing out and stuff too. But I think I'm gonna push it all the way. I'm getting a little twisty. I'm gonna push it all the way through Sunday. I think I'm gonna redo them on Sunday. All right, this is our last stitch here. All right, so that's our first little row of reverse chain stitches. And I think I'm going to do that same thing. So I'm going to just go back the opposite direction, but I'm going to start again with that tiny anchor stitch. So my stitches will be going in the other direction now because I'm actually going to go back the other direction, but that might be cute. Cat dog. Susan's got to get that money's worth. Yeah, for sure. Exactly. So that's kind of why I'm testing it, right? Because dang, if I can have nails that last 3 weeks in an acceptable state, then that will definitely be saving me money in the long run. The dip's definitely more expensive than lacquer, but holy cow, for only having to being able to wear it for 3 weeks instead of literally 3 days tops if I'm lucky. So basically more like 2 days. I've gone from 2 days to 3 weeks. So that's going to save on theoretically the acetone and stuff too, even though I do have to, I think, use a little bit more or a lot bit more to get these off. I haven't taken them off yet, so my mentality may change on Sunday when I do that. But we'll see. So far, I'm calling it a win. Yeah, exactly. Kimberly says instead of decorating Easter eggs, I can decorate my nails. Yep, I'm actually going to be doing it kind of an Eastery color too. Not because of Easter, but just because I want to try the other color out. It's actually kind of the color of this purple. So come Sunday, we will try doing the dip powder again, and I might come on. I know it's Easter and everything and everyone's doing stuff, but if I'm going to be doing the nails, I might as well do them live again. I think I might try taking them off, not live though, because I think it's just a lot of sitting around. And I've been watching YouTube videos, and I hear that you have to kind of let them completely dry out or sit for 20 minutes before doing it again. But I don't know if that's really true, but whatever. But yeah, happy with them so far for sure. Oh yeah, Cat cat dog zoo, definitely try both of them and see both ways of doing the chain stitch, see what you like better. And sometimes it's just easier to do it one way versus the other. But this seems to be working. I thought maybe it'd be a little difficult to do this reverse chain stitch when I'm right up against some other stitches, because when I'm swooping under, I don't want to catch those other stitches, but that hasn't been an issue. So that's nice. All right, and I think I might start a fresh piece of thread, just because these chain stitches take up a ton. I don't want to like do 2 and then have to start fresh. So I'm gonna weave in this end again, and we will get some fresh white thread, and I'll continue doing the reverse chain stitch. Look how cute it is on the background. Like, it would be cute. I mean, this would be a way to fill in this area. You could just do a bunch of like back stitches almost right next to each other. That would be a really pretty effect on the, you know, if you wanted to fill that space using a different stitch. You do a satin stitch, that'd work too. I love using these stitches that are normally used for just outlining. I love using them to fill a space. I think it just looks so cute. All right, that's that guy. Let's find our white again. Here we are. Okay. I got my 24 inches. I think I was a little greedy on this pull. We're probably more like 30 inches. Oh my gosh, I can't grab it. There we go. All right, I'm going to get our 3 strands out of here again. So bop in the end just to separate the 6 strands a little bit. And I'm going to just isolate one and pull it on out from the rest of the bunch. Run my hand through that, and I'm going to do that 2 more times. This only works if you pull them out one at a time. But I think it's a pretty fast, easy way to do it. There we go. So this is 3 ready to go for when we need it. And I'm going to put these 3 back together just by putting them next to each other. Run my hand through it, and then we'll be good. And number 3 here. Okay. Grab a needle. Oh, Kimberly's asking, has Raspberry been around? We talked about Raspberry yesterday. So Raspberry is the fox that has been in our, like, urban backyard. So it's unusual, I think, to have wildlife here. Oh, I gotta weave in the end. I mean, not really, but we are just outside a major city. So it's funny to have a little fox, and we've named him Raspberry. So I have not seen him yet. I think we saw him a few times this winter. A pair of them. A pair of foxes. We're trying to grow raspberries in our garden, in our backyard garden, and Raspberry the fox, we've caught him sleeping underneath the raspberries, so that's why he's named Raspberry. All right, I'm going to make that tiny little anchor stitch again. But nope, have not seen him yet. So hopefully he comes around again. Little guy. All right, I'm going to swoop under that anchor stitch to get my first stitch started. There we are. Yep, Amy is asking what next week is, and it is the sunflower. So let me grab that. So next week we are starting the embroidery of the month, which is our sunflower sunflower pattern, and I'm excited for this because all of these petals are stem stitch, and we don't do that very often here, and it is pretty fun. I'm learning to love it. I was always so scared of the stem stitch, but now I just love it. So this is going to be a whole thing of stem stitch, and I'm thinking we'll all be a little bit more comfortable doing the stem stitch after that. But yes, so that'll start on Monday. And I'll be live Saturday this week. I think I'll probably be on probably 11, 12-ish. And we're going to work on that punch needle. Oh, I got a little knot here. There we go. The punch needle project of the tulip. I'd love to get that as far as possible. I need to look up how to glue it, because I'd love to even get to the point that we're gluing the back. Oh man, catching on everything right now. But yeah, so some extra crafting this week. Alright, this is looking cute. I love all these little chain stitches right next to each other. I'm kind of making the rows a little close. I could probably make them a little farther away from each other and it'd be totally acceptable still. But yeah, so if you want to stitch that sunflower next week with us, we'll be doing it every day. I'm here at 8:30 p.m. Central Time every weekday, Monday through Friday. Alright, I think we'll do 2 more here. I'm getting black fuzz all over it, and I can tell I wore my black sweatshirt, my like fuzzy sweatshirt yesterday. It leaves all the little black fuzzles everywhere. But it's so warm. It's my warmest sweater, and I have a matching one in cream. I'm just like, I need both of these. I've just worn them all freaking winter, and I can't wait to not have to wear them anymore. I can't wait to just walk outside in the normal clothes that I'm wearing inside and not be freaking freezing. Alright, I'm making the anchor stitch for the next row. My guess is we'll get 2 more rows in this little nose area before we're done. Alright, and I'm going back the other way again. If you wanted all the stitches to go in the same direction, you could either go back to the top and start, all rows at the same side, or you could do a reverse chain stitch down and then a normal chain stitch like what we did over here going back up, because they're the reverse of each other. So if you're doing one this way and one this way, they'll actually look the same. So that's kind of fun. Lynn, this is the chain stitch for embroidery. There's chain stitches and like a zillion other crafts. Like crochet and tatting and just all those. But this is the embroidered chain stitch. And right now I'm doing the reverse chain stitch. So it's a variation that I think is a bit easier. So the reverse chain stitch. So yeah, so I think we're going to get 1 more row in here, but then I'm going to have to jump up and get like, a few extra little rows on his forehead, it looks like. I mean, what I could do is kind of veer up this way and then have like a little, like, what are those called? Those widow's peak. Is that what they're called? I don't know, those little pointy bits there. That might be a way to do it. Let's see, how do we want to do this? I could just keep my rows. I think I'm going to just keep doing the rows next to each other. I think that might call attention to the forehead, and I don't necessarily want to do that. So I'm just going to keep filling it in like I am now. Oh, I made that one really short for some reason. That's okay. Shorty little chain stitch. Oh, the reverse is what through. Yeah. So we did we did a normal chain stitch for this little bit, but yeah, now we're doing the reverse just to show a couple different ways of doing it. So if you haven't tried the reverse, we'll be starting another row here, but you basically start with your tiny little anchor stitch, you know, what you would normally end a row with. You just start with that instead. And then you just swoop under that stitch, kind of like how I'm doing now. I come up a stitch length away, and then I swoop under my entire stitch. I'm not going to the back of the fabric. And then I go to the back of the fabric here, right in that same hole that we started with. So 2 more, and we'll get another row started. Dang, I'm going to need a whole nother piece of thread, I think, soon. Those chain stitches do take up a lot of floss, and we'll be doing French knots for the letter F, so that'll take a bunch of floss too. But that's what it's there for, I guess. All right, so this next row, I'm going to go all the way down to the nose, and then I'm just going to go back and forth to fill it up. Well, I go under a top stitch, then down under the top stitch. Oh, so this is a reverse chain stitch. So like a normal chain stitch, I'm going to just do one. A normal chain stitch, I would kind of make like an arc, and then I'd go back in the same hole and then come up. So that's our normal chain stitch, and then you'd lock it in with like a tiny little anchor stitch at the end, like so. But sometimes it's just annoying to have to make that big loop. There's actually another way to do this. I'll show you another quick way to do a chain stitch. Oh gosh, I'm making a mess. I'll show you another quick way to do it so you don't have to do that loop and still do a forward chain stitch. I'm going to just trim my end here a little bit. There we go. Oh, you like the reverse so much better? Yeah, so here's another way to do a chain stitch. You can actually go down and up, and then now you can wrap around, so you don't have to do the loop beforehand. But a different way that I was wanting to show is the sewing method. So you can go in and out in the same motion. So I went in and out in the same motion, and now my needle's like halfway through, and then I can take my thread, wrap it around the back of the needle, and then pull the rest of the way through. So that's a nice way to do a forward chain stitch. So in and out, wrap, like either direction, wrap your thread around the needle, and then pull through. And then you'd still like do your little anchor stitch at the end. So that's another way to do a chain stitch. Oh, you're not no trouble at all. Ask. I'm more than happy to do a demo or answer questions. That's totally what I'm here for. For sure. So then the reverse chain stitch, I'll just do right here. Sometimes the reverse chain stitch is just a bit easier because you don't have to worry about those loops. You don't have to worry about wrapping anything around your needle. And it's literally a chain stitch backwards, basically. So I'll start another row here so you can see. So I'm starting now with that tiny anchor stitch. So that anchor stitch, that tiny, tiny stitch that holds down our loop at the end, we're just going to make that right now at the beginning. So we got an itty bitty bitty stitch, and now I'm going to come up for my first chain stitch. I'm going to come up like a stitch length away from that itty bitty bitty stitch, and then I'm going to swoop my needle underneath. So I'm not going through the fabric. I'm just going underneath that tiny, tiny stitch, coming back through the other side, and now I'm going to go back down into that first hole of our stitch there. There we go, and you can see it looks like our last stitch basically from the row before. So that's the reverse chain stitch, and then for the next stitch, instead of you come up, a stitch length away again, and instead of swooping underneath the tiny anchor stitch, we're going to just swoop underneath the stitch itself there. And you can see I don't have to deal with wrapping the floss around or making that loop beforehand. So that's why it can kind of be a little bit easier. My thread is just out of my hair. Yep, same hole. I'm going right back in the exact same hole. So I'm swooping underneath, which is a little hard with all these stitches right next to it, but I'm going back in the exact same hole. There we go. I think I'm just going to go down this line a little bit. And then I am going to have to come back up here to fill in that little gap. But yeah, so sometimes the reverse chain stitch can just be like a chill, easier way to do the chain stitch. Kind of depends how I'm feeling. Sometimes I like doing that sewing method of a chain stitch where I went in and out and then wrap around the end of the needle. That's or a variation of that where I just kind of make a loop still, but then go in and out and pull straight through. I don't know. It's all how I feel that day. But this, if you've had trouble doing a forward chain stitch, then definitely give this reverse one a go. I just love it. Okay, I'm going to try and sneak in all the way back to the nose again. Tight fit with all these other stitches around here, but we're going to do it. I'm going to try and sneak it in here. I think maybe 2 more yet. Which is easiest for a beginner. I kind of think that this reverse chain stitch is a bit easier because you don't have like thread flopping around all over. You don't have to make that loop and like come up in the loop. So I think this is a little bit easier. However, a forward chain stitch where you do make that loop and come up in the middle of the loop, that's how like a lazy daisy stitch is gonna work, or like a single chain stitch, like if you just want one tiny little chain stitch in your design. So it's good to know, but for a lot of them in a row, and when you're gonna work on them for a long time, like row after row, it is nice to do this reverse one. But yeah, I'd say give them both a try, but I think the reverse is probably a bit easier if you're just starting. Alright, I like it. I just need to hop back up there. I don't have that much thread left. I'm going to actually just kind of weave in the backs instead of jumping right up there. There we go. And let's see. So I'm going to continue the reverse chain stitch. So I'm going to put a tiny anchor stitch here to start. And do my first stitch. I might only get like 3 stitches out of this floss yet. There we go. Went through that tiny stitch and back down. Maybe I can get to the end here. I definitely won't get the whole space filled with this thread, but I might be able to get to the back of the head here. 2 more. Oops. There we go. And I'm going to just force 1 more out of this. Alright, back in that same hole, and with a reverse chain stitch to end, you just are done. There's that little, if you're doing a forward one, you have to tack down that loop with your little anchor stitch, but since we're going in reverse, we don't have to do that because we did the anchor stitch at the beginning. So all I gotta do is weave in these ends, get a fresh piece, and we'll get that last little area done. Okay. And I have that second piece of thread that we split earlier, so I don't have to split it again. Got my 3 strands. Okay. All right, I left off here. So I think just down back will do the job. So let's weave in the end. I always have to count this. So I weave in 3 times. 1, 2. And if I don't count out loud, then I'll mess up. I'll only do twice, or I'll do 4 or whatever. I only need 3. Nope, cross stitch is a very, very similar craft, but instead of outlines and filling in shapes like this, like, you know, how we're just following an outline basically, like, so I'm just stitching around the edge here. So that's embroidery, whereas cross stitch, it's kind of like pixel art. So cross stitch is a bunch of little X's that, you know, when all those X's are in the right spots, they form a shape, but it's much like a pixel art. So it's called cross stitch because you're making a bunch of little X's or crosses. But same deal. I actually kind of consider cross stitch a type of embroidery. Like I think of embroidery as like the broader idea. I've been toying, like, let me hear what you guys think, but I've been toying with the idea of doing a few cross stitch patterns. I've been itching to do a cross stitch. You know, some of these ideas just like they bubble to the top eventually. I just have to do them. So I'm kind of thinking I'd love to do some cross stitch. I know cross stitch takes ages compared to embroidery. Just like a simple embroidery like this. You know, I can finish this in a couple hours. If I were to do this in cross stitch, like filling in this whole entire shape with cross stitch, it would take me like days. So embroidery, typically when it's just like, you know, something like this where you're just outlining things, a little simpler one, is going to go faster than cross stitch for sure. Yeah, so let me know, you guys, if you'd be interested in like a fun little cross stitch. Linda's asking, will the thread conditioner dry out if left open? It shouldn't. It's I don't see why it would. It's basically beeswax. And I don't know, does beeswax dry out? I know some of the other thread I know some of those thread conditioners that say they're beeswax, those can dry out a little bit, but I'm wondering if they're completely 100% beeswax or if they're something else too. So I don't know. I'll ask my brother that question. He might know. Oh, Amy says, I find that I am more consistent when I do the reverse chain stitch. Oh, that's good to know. You know what? I think I am too. All right, last little row. I'm going to start with that tiny anchor stitch again. I'm trying to decide what direction to stitch. I think like this will work. I think just 2. We'll just do 2 big ones. Grab that anchor stitch. This texture is looking so pretty. Oh, you've done cross stitch with your wife? Oh, she got too sick a few years before she passed. Oh, you haven't done anything for 5 years or so. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But yeah, it's just relaxing. Cross stitch especially, if you just need a moment to chill and just, you know, let the mind just disappear. Like let the brain be like a relaxing mush for a little. Cross stitch is absolutely great. I kind of liken it to knitting. Like for me, when I knit, like it's just like, you know, knit 5, purl 1, knit 5, purl 1, or whatever. So you're just kind of counting and that's it. But it's enough that your brain has to be totally occupied. And I think of that with cross stitch as well. You're just counting and filling in a shape, and it's kind of a longer term project. So if you're not in a rush, you can just absolutely just chill. So yeah, love it. I haven't done one in a while just because they take forever, but it would be a fun thing to do here, where, you know, I'm on here with you guys every night and we can just chill and stitch a few rows. That would be fun. I'm sure I have some cross stitch, some Ada fabric here somewhere. I must. All right, you guys. But I've been playing with designing cross stitches and stuff again, so if there's any design you'd like to see, let me know. I'm working on a little like flower thing now. We'll see. Oh, Grace says I primarily do counted cross stitch now and I love it. Yes, it's just so chill, and I don't know, I'm feeling like I need a little bit of that. Some chill counted cross stitch. I feel like compared to embroidery, I'm still making an active decision every time I'm making a stitch, right? Like I'm deciding how big it is and, you know, what colors and all that. Whereas with cross stitch, I am just following the deal and just counting. Debbie says, would you start with 14 count Ada? I would. So the counts so Ada is like an even weave fabric, which means that there's a certain amount of stitches going each way. It's like something like 4 threads and then a space and 4 threads and a space, and they both do that, and that creates little holes like that. So cross stitch fabric, you have those holes for you. So a popular brand is Ada fabric, and it comes in like 14 count and 20 count and like 32 count or whatever. That stands for inches. So like 14 count is 14 holes, like so 14 stitches. I guess not holes because that would be 15 holes, but 14 stitches an inch. So a lot of times when cross stitch is measured, it'll say something like, this design is 200 by 100 stitches. So then you know, like, oh, I want this to be I want this to be like no more than like 7 inches. So you can kind of do the math, like, let's say it's 140, the width is like 140 stitches. So you know, if you take 140 and you're thinking of using 14, Ada 14, you would divide, 140 by 14, so you'd end up with 10. So it'd be 10 inches across then. Was that right? I don't know if I can math. It's silly of me to do math. But anyway, so like 140 stitches with 14 Ada, or Ada 14 would be like 10 inches wide. So that will give you a sense of how much fabric you might need, or like what, maybe you want it to be 5 by 7 when you're done instead of like 10 inches. So you might use like a Ada 20. But then it's, the bigger the number, the smaller and smaller your stitches are going to be too. So the smaller the number, like 14, I think they make like 10 as well. Your stitches are going to be much bigger, but that means your whole piece is going to be bigger too. Anyway, it's a little bit on Ada fabric. All right, you guys. So we are done with the fox. We just have the little F's to do yet. And what color should we do? I mean, we could really do anything. I got this kind of mess of colors. I was going to get those bobbins. I have like thread bobbins to wind this around. And I was thinking of doing that, but I keep forgetting to bring it up, and this blue is kind of popping out at me. What if we did the F in like this blue? Okay, Armia is saying blue. I like it. We have this bright blue too, which is kind of fun, but I think I like actually I like that too. I don't know. Let's go with this. All right, so we're going to fill this with French knot. So it's a bit different than our original design here. So we did satin stitch with an orange. We changed a few things on here. The feet we did a little different this time too. So it was a request to fill it in with French knots. So we are going to give that a start tonight. I don't think we'll get all that far, but I'm going to grab some floss here. Grabbing my like 24 inches or so, 18 to 24 inches. Let's separate into 3 strands. I'm just going to do it with the 3 strands again, like how I've been doing the rest of these pieces. Okay, 1, 2, and there we go, 3. Okay, so let's get those together. So I'm tempted to just weave in the end here and jump down. I think I am going to do that. Most of the time I would have just started with a little like scrap floss, like to make an away knot, and weave in the ends later. But this is such a small jump, I think I'm going to just cheat and do that. Okay, Gretchen says, so my pattern says 209 by 102 for cross stitch. So I divide those numbers each by 16. That's the fabric count, and that gives you the size of the design. Yes, so your 16 means 16 stitches an inch. I think it's 16 stitches is what it means, not number of holes. So 16 stitches per inch. So if you divided 209 by 16, that would be your inches, and 101 divided by 16 would be the inches. Correct. That is the deal. So that's a rather large piece. I'm thinking that 200 and the 100. Cross stitch, it's always a surprise to me. It is always it's always a surprise at how long it takes to do. I feel like, I don't know, does anyone else feel like that? I'm like, oh, this is a cute little design, this won't take me that long, and then it takes ages. But, you know, if you know that going in, then it's not a surprise, and then it's not like, oops, shoot, I already got a knot just weaving in the end here. Well, we're going to redo that. There we go. I think I'll get this leg instead. But yeah, it always takes me a long time and then I get frustrated. But I haven't done a cross stitch for relaxation's sake in a long time, so maybe I'll just get one started and that can be just like our chill project for a little while. That'd be kind of nice. Okay, so French knots here. It's been a long time since I've filled in any size shape, you know, this big, with just French knots. So I'm kind of thinking, how should we do it? Should I just kind of randomly kind of go fill in at the corner here? Or should I like outline the whole thing maybe first and then fill it in? That might not be a bad idea. I think I'm going to do that. Normally I don't. Normally I like just doing them right next to each other because, you know, if I have a French knot down here and then I'm making another one up here, my thread sometimes catches on the other French knot, so I kind of like starting on one side and filling in. But I think in this case, going around would be maybe smarter. All right, so French knot, I'm coming up, and I'm going to wrap around twice. I can do a little bit more of a demo of this too probably, but I'm going to hold those 2 loops in place and then point my needle towards the fabric. I'm not going to go in the same hole. I'm going to go kind of right next to my first hole. If you go in the same hole, you can pull your knot to the back, which is no good. All right, so I'm halfway in with the needle. I'm going to pull those threads tight so it's tight against the needle and the fabric, And then I personally do this with every knot. I hold it there with my thumb or a finger just until all the loops are by. I don't see a lot of people doing that. They just pull and it all seems to work out, but that doesn't work out for me very, very often. All right, I'm going to just go down the line here. And so, like I said, I don't go in the exact same hole. I go like a couple threads over. So I think a good way to think about that is I'm going to come up on like the inside of the line and go back down on the outside of the line. So like the line with itself will be like the barrier. So wrap around. And I think I can go a little bit closer. We'll see. See how close we'll have to make these knots. It's already cute. Oh, God. All right. This is going to be one of those things that now I'm going to start doing this more often. Little French knots. And if some get a little further apart or too close, that's fine because, you know, we have all the ones to fill in next to it yet. So if you got some too far apart, you can just squish another one in there later. So a lot of people just kind of pull it through and hold the thread like that, but I don't know. I can never get that to work, so I'm just going to hold the loops in place manually right there. Ooh, one of my threads got a little bit loose. There we go. And I'm guessing there's some other people that can go like supersonic speed at making these French knots, but we're going to go at whatever pace I can go at. Oh, Caitlin said I'd love to watch some cross stitch on here. Okay, that's good to know. I just think cross stitch is so popular now too. It'd be just fun to do it. Oh, so Gretchen, your pattern calls for 32 count fabric, Aida fabric, but there's no way you can see it. Yeah, that's the one problem. Like the bigger numbers means that there's more stitches per inch. So instead of like a 14 count Aida, which is 14 stitches, 32 has 32 stuffed in an inch. And then the holes get pretty small. But then your piece gets smaller too. So depends what's more important. I think a lot of times it's most important to actually see what you're doing. So the 14 count or even 10 count might be good. But yeah, then you're just making a huge cross stitch, which is totally fine. I suppose theoretically then it uses more floss too, but that's fine. That's what it's there for. Linda's saying, how about close on the line polka dot for the inside? So polka dot as in like, oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you meant like different colors. What you're saying is doing the stitches, the French knots, like right next to each other on the line, but maybe I don't have to fill the entire space in. It could just be kind of like a bunch of scattered ones. I kind of like that idea. We'll see how that goes. And the thing is, we can give that a try, and if we're like, we still want to fill it in, then we just fill in around all of the little speckles. So we'll just see how it goes. I'll keep working on this for the next few minutes till 9:30. We're usually here for about an hour, 8:30 to 9:30 Central. So we got like 6 minutes left. We'll see how far we get. Maybe I'll just finish this thread. We got a lot of thread left, but it's annoying to leave the thread in the middle. And then we'll come back tomorrow and finish. We'll for sure finish these outlines first. I think I'm just going to do the corner here, even though it's like 1.5 would fit in there, but we'll just do the one. But yeah, then we'll finish the outlines first and then decide if we want to get fill the rest in. Should I put another one there? I think we're maybe good for now. I can always go back. Can always stuff another one in there. Oh, thanks again for coming, Lynn. I appreciate it. Have a nice rest of your day or evening. Oh, like the size. So like these guys, but as like cross stitches. Yeah, those would be kind of cool. This would be a nice size, for sure. Yeah, that would be fun. It'd be much faster to do than a large one too. So that's always beneficial. Oh my gosh, I can't pick up my needle. Alright, I think that's looking awfully freaking cute right now. Oh, I start at 8:30 p.m. Central Time every evening, Monday through Friday. And I think if you follow me on my profile, I think it'll alert you maybe? It'll at least, if you're on live, it'll show that someone you follow is live. I'm not sure if it completely alerts, but it might be more likely to come up in your For You page too. That could be. But yeah, 8:30 Central Time. I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Ooh, that one looked a little loose, but I think we're fine. Ooh, I never do this. I never do French knots. Like, I always kind of go from top to down, so actually maybe I can just rotate my work. That would work. So it's awkward for me to like do these French knots with these ones underneath them in the way, so I think, why don't I just go like that? Problem solved. There's my brain. For me, it's just like I pull the threads downward, and it's kind of my work area for these French knots, so to have all those stitches in the way underneath is kind of annoying. But yeah, I can just keep rotating. That'll work. Thread's getting a bit twisty. We'll just let it dangle for a moment. Untwist itself a hair. Oh, awesome. I appreciate that. Thanks again for coming, for sure. But yeah, so we'll be working on this embroidery for the rest of the week, and then Saturday we'll be doing a punch needle project. I kind of jump. We do a lot of embroidery, but I do jump between crafts. So we'll be doing that rug hooking, basically, or punch needle. Not quite rug hooking, but we are making a rug. Oh, Lisa's asking, when will the needle minders be back in stock? They will be back in stock in a couple weeks yet, but I have a couple variations coming, and I think they're all just so cute. A couple variations of the penguin and fish ones, and then we're getting a few more made as well. So they are on their way. Oh, you remember doing the stitch for eyes? I often, yeah, I use them. I have been using these for eyes lately. Like our one for, we'll be stitching this next week. Got a little one for his eye there. I think that's the only French knot on here. Yep, his little eye. That's our embroidery of the month this month. Oh, Gretchen says I use my needle minder and scissors every day. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, we have a bunch of embroidery supplies over in the shop too. All right, I think is this just a one? Yeah, I'm gonna just do one here. This is one of those ones that I'm like, yeah, do I do one or two? Because it's kind of like a 1.5 amount. We're just gonna do one. I can always fill it in again. Ugh, actually, I think I need another one. So I'm gonna add it back. squeeze right in the middle of those two. There we are. He looks happier. Okay. Oh, let's still go. I'm still rotating my piece a little bit. We'll get 4 in here again. It's fun doing this outline though. I think this is a good idea to do the entire outline. Actually, I think I only need 3 here. This line is a bit skinnier than the main downward stroke of the F. Yep, 3 will do. Yeah, I think I'll go till I'm out of thread here. So I'll go a little over tonight. So tomorrow we'll finish whatever outline is needed yet on this big one, and then maybe we'll try and do that like little speckled dots. So just some random French knots on the inside, just to see if we like that look. Otherwise, we can still try filling in the whole thing. To do a little test. Okay, get in this corner. There we go. So French knots are not easy to do when you don't have a lot of thread left, so I think we only have a couple left that I can do here without it getting super annoying. Ooh, my thread's gonna come out of the eye. Yeah, I think maybe this will be my last one right here, right on the corner with this thread. So I'll weave in this end, and then we will start fresh tomorrow with a fresh thread and get the rest of it done. But dang, that is adorable. It really is cute with just those little baby knots there. Oh gosh, look at the back. The back is actually pretty cute. We could just do, it's almost like a tight stem stitch. That'd be a fun way to do an outline too. It's like a stem stitch with a space in the middle. It's just kind of like a bunch of diagonals together. That's cute. Sometimes the stitches look cooler on the back. Alright. Weaving it in. Trim our little excess. And there we are. That is looking all sorts of adorable. And I think that color is pretty cute too. So, all right, you guys, that is just so sweet. So Fox's upper fox guy is done, and yeah, we will just play around with this these letter F's tomorrow in the French knots. So, all right. Hello again here. So yes, thank you guys again for joining this evening. I'm having like a really good time working on this with you just through all these alphabets, and your suggestions are awesome, and I love taking them here. So again, this is French knots were a suggestion to do that, to fill in this space by you guys, and it's just looking adorable. And again, something I don't normally do, so it gets me out of my comfort zone a little bit too, which is fabulous. Always room for learning there. So awesome, you guys. We'll continue this tomorrow, again at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. We'll be here for about an hour. And I will see you then, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. Good night.